On Evolutionary Hardcore 2.0, episode 110 coming your way. Today we're talking about ways to track steroid progress by Para Pharma. So this one we're going to talk about definition of progress. We're talking about specs to measure progress. We're going to talk about target setting and setting goals. We're also going to talk about the Para Pharma products and steroids that you can use. We're going to give you some ideas where you can get good progress. And we're talking
Yes.
about parapharma's popularity, why they have been so popular. So let's first talk about the definition of progress, Mobster. So there's a couple different angles we could take on this, but Mobster, why don't you start? Tell us your
Yeah,
opinion
I
on this.
mean, look, Steve, as I said to you in the pre-show, not every single person that comes onto the forums or listens to this podcast wants the same thing from what they want in the gym. It's quite simple for me, Steve. For the most part, most of my year is focused on getting stronger. It might be that I don't specifically train on one particular lift because I've maxed out years ago on it, so I'll train on something else. But for the most part, my measurement, my way of measuring progress is for me to get stronger. That's more weight on the bar lifted for 1 rep max or even for 2, 3, 4, 5 reps, whatever. Right? Real straightforward for me. No problems, no mucking around, no arguing. You lift more, you're stronger, you progress. But a lot of our listeners don't need that. They might, for example, be 25% body fat and they want to be leaner. So progression would be 24, 21, 22, whatever. It's getting stripping the fat away. That means even if the scale stays the same, but they have their body fat measured, they've seen different numbers and better numbers than before. It might be that they're really unfit, Steve, and their heart rate's all over the place when they try and do cardio. Their blood pressure's horrendous. We've even seen people there where they're quite happy with how they're progressing in the gym, but their numbers on their blood tests are all over the place. And how can I make my numbers better in my blood test? My post cycle results blood test. I've had a blood test, Steve. My LDL's all over the place. Can you give me some suggestions how to I can improve it? So we see this. So the argument for progress becomes that, or the discussion for progress becomes that. We're going to give you in this podcast some definitions of what it means to make progression, to improve. And as I say, it doesn't have to be lifting weight on the bar. It might be a bigger bicep, a better bench press. It might be a more clearly visible six pack. It might just be, as it is for one or two of the percentage of our listeners, quote unquote, getting more arse, Steve, literally because they look better, they feel more confident. The problem that sometimes happens, and this is something I also said to Steve in a pre show, there are times when we've trained, and I know this applies to Steve, it applies to every listener, where we are training our asses off. We're really killing it in the gym. We're killing it in the kitchen. We're killing it in the gym. We're killing it when we get our steps, when we ride the bike, when we row, when we're doing all these things. And sometimes, Steve, we get lost. And I don't mean lost as in we don't know what we're doing or whatever else, but sometimes it's hard because we're tired, we're hungry, we're grouchy, the missus is kicking our asses. We've got another fucking bills come to the door. And on those particular days, it's difficult sometimes to see that we've transformed ourselves. And one of the tricks, and again, it's one of the things we're going to talk about briefly. One of the tricks is that sometimes in those moments, it's a good idea to go back and look at where you was when you started, even if you go back a year, Steve. Now, I've got some diaries that probably go back some years. I'd say 10, 15 years, longer than I think I've been here in South Wales. But I have kept a diary probably from I'm 16, 17 years of age. And if I was even in my 10 or 15-year-old diary, Steve, I can go, oh my God, have you seen the amount of bench presses? I was like double, literally fucking double. 90K, 100K, 120K versus 200K, 440 pounds versus 220 pounds. So I can have a day when I go, that was a shit workout. Motherfucker, you're twice as strong as it used to be. And that was only 15 years ago. And you've been doing this shit 45 years. Stop moaning, you dozy bitch. You've done really well. I have days like that, Steve, where I know on the stuff that I was very good at, and even one or two lists now, I'm fucking world class. So I'll have my head up my ass for a day and I'll moan about it. And I have to get people to remind me. I've had literally people comment on my training logs going, you do realize your worst day ever, which was obviously a slight exaggeration. I was just feeling it that particular day. would be my best day ever. I've had to be reminded. And sometimes we need that. Now, on those days, you want simple, straightforward, easy to see means of measuring progression. The most difficult, I think, Steve, is the visual. And I say that quite simply because if you and I were twins and one of us woke up in a great mood and one of us woke up in a shitty mood, one of us was carved up to the fucking brim and the other one was a low carbs, and we had identical physiques, I guarantee you that we would see our physiques in a different light from our twin. So sometimes the visual reference, especially when you're in the shape as a bodybuilder, and that's the way that you train to be lean, to look sexy, whatever, it can be difficult to see what other people see. It can be difficult in that circumstance to measure progression. I look better than I did last week. Yeah, but I can't see it, motherfucker. What's going on? So that argument is okay, and I'll give you an actual suggestion on how you can do that as well. It's by actually asking someone else, but we're getting to that. But the other means and methods of progression are fairly straightforward, and they are at least a way of encouraging you to say, yes, you're still doing well, you're still being successful, the grind is working, and even on those days when you're not feeling it, you know that you're making progress. So, what do you think about these means and methods of progression overall, Steve? And of course, even the visual stuff I just referred to.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the way the science works, the way our bodies work, you're not going to improve in a linear fashion. So it's not going to be, just straight up.
Yeah,
And it could be with anything in life, it's going to work like that. Another aspect is as we get older, our bodies get worse and worse. I could see why. I think a lot of people don't understand this. I can see why professional athletes, whether they're bodybuilders, whether they're football players, whether they're tennis players, basketball players, I can see why a lot of them, they go into a depression after they retire. And it's because, look, they were the best, best versions of themselves athletically. And then
yeah,
they start getting into their 30s or their 40s, if they're lucky enough to make it that far, and their play starts dropping very rapidly, and they're cut or they retire, they see the writing on the wall, and they get depressed because they miss the way they were before. And what happens is you got the younger, fresher players that replace you in that particular sport, and they're what you used to be. And I could see why, it could become depressive. So it's important to remember that there's going to be things when it comes to progress that are going to change. And I think Mobster was very eloquent when what he was saying, that some of you at the beginning of the podcast, look, some of you are going to have different goals, and your goal
yes,
today might not be the same goal a year from now or 5 years
no,
from now or 10
no,
years from now. So, and a lot of people, they've known me over the years, and they come up to me still like, "Oh, Steve, are you still running, triathlons? Oh, Steve, are you still in the gym, 5 or 6 days a week? Steve, are you still doing this? Are you still doing that?" And I tell them, "No, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that." And they looked at me shocked. They're like, wow, you were all in on that. But what ends up happening is throughout time, you get injuries, you have to stop, you have to quit this. You end up finding, it gets frustrating. You hit a plateau. And like Mobster said, your plateau is someone else's best day, but to you, it's not good enough anymore just to not be able to break that plateau and take a couple steps back. So then you decide, I'm going to go into something else. I'm going to try something else. Maybe I'm going to try, I used to be a power lifter. Now I'm going to try and go into competitive bodybuilding. I want to go on shows. I want to go on stage, in my tights and show my muscles off to a bunch of people in the crowd. That's what I
mm,
want to do. It's like a show. And then, well, you know what? I'm kind of, I don't really like that. It's kind of stress. It's not really worth it to me. We've seen people post this on the forum who've competed. I'm spending all this money. I'm having to travel. I'm taking time away from work. It's not really worth it to me.
yeah,
I'm going to switch to something else. I'm just going to go back to go being a gym rat and just go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week and just enjoy it and not have that pressure of having to
yes,
compete and having to, suffer, going into the show and having to travel and having to time everything, and it's not worth it to me. So we have to kind of just accept that. We have to accept that things are going to change, and we have to be accepting of each other as well, and not say, you know what, you should do what I want to do. I'm into this. You should want to be into this too.
Yeah. I
And
was a
that's
bit like
something
that. Yeah.
got to mature from that. And we do
Yes.
that a lot with our spouses. We do that a lot with our friends. We want to force our friends to come with us to the gym. Well, if they don't want to go to the gym, why are we forcing them? Let them do their own thing. If they want to do something, let them do their own thing. It doesn't make it right. So I think part of progress is the mental aspect too.
Yes, absolutely, Steve. Yeah. I mean, let me just expound on something you made a comment on. And I've actually been guilty of one, and I would say guilty, but in a positive way of another. So I was definitely guilty of, and I suspect this might be true of some of our listeners as well. When I was younger, and I first started training, to me, training was the greatest thing in the world, and still is. All right, so I wouldn't be doing this for 45 fucking years if I didn't like it. Run out loud. Um, and I couldn't understand. I was probably worse on the whole obesity thing. I hate the some positive body stuff that people talk about. It's okay to be fat, not really. But I was worse in a particular kind of way because I was like, if you're fat, why are you doing this? Why are you in the gym? And of course, what I realize now is the simple fact of the matter is that person's in the gym trying to do something, trying to make a transformation, and I should support them, which I do. So when I was a teenager, I was a bit of an arsehole. Look at that fat fucker over there. Look at me all skinny and shit. Now, of course, that was way too judgmental, and of course, that's because you're young, you lack a sort of a broader perspective, you lack a certain maturity, you don't realise, like I said, that person's actually in the gym trying to make progress. They're there. Doesn't matter about the fat fucker outside the gym. This person's in the gym. They've decided to come to the gym. They're doing exactly what you're doing, and all there is they've started from a different place. Of course, over time, my views changed. Equally, and I touched on this before, I've been fortunate in my own particular way, and I didn't always think about it at the time, but if I'm being honest, it's kind of true. I've been probably at some point one of the top 10 in the world in my chosen niche. I think I've still, and I'd have to go back and check, Steve, I think I've still got maybe three or four world records, same again, European, same again, British records. Some of those will never be beaten because the rules have changed. But two or three of those, it's just because people haven't caught up with me yet. And I'm not even as strong as I was at the particular time on those particular events. It would kill me to train to that level now. And I don't really need to or want to. So there's no motivation. So one of the things that I've done, and this is that mental shift that Steve was referring to when he talked about tennis players and soccer players and so on. I realized that on some exercises, even now, I'm arguably very, very strong. I'm in that 1% group of everybody on some lifts. And arguably, I won't get much stronger, if at all. I might have hit my maximum on those things. So, one of the things I've done, and I even arguably, I'm doing this right now, Steve, I've just literally come off a very heavy training cycle where I maxed out a super crazy 900 pounds on the Hatfield squat, squatting down to a bench in the gym. That's 410 kilograms. That's a shitload of weight on the bar. That's like 9.5 plates on the side of an Olympic bar, just to give people an indication. It's fucking crazy. I've only seen one or two people do more than that on that specific particular bar. There's obviously some elite powerlifters that are squatting more than that on a normal bar with the suits and wraps and God knows what else. So the mental thing would be, oh, you're never going to be as strong as that again. What the fuck are you going to do? Progression, yeah, look how far you progress. But the mental aspect, if you're, and again, I was 60 years old when I'd done it. It was only a couple of weeks ago, Steve. So the mental thing would be, that could be a head fuck if I let it be. That could be, you're never going to be as strong as that again. You're never going to get under that much weight on the bar. It's never going to hurt that much sitting on your neck or whatever else. Fine. Do something else. So I've already set myself a different target. It's going to be a difficult thing for me to do. Certainly going to work my heart and my lungs a lot more. It's going to be with a lot less weight. And I've said, well, I would like to equal or relatively equal, same squat setup, Hatfield squat again, but remembering Tom Platz and the Fred Hatfield squat off FIBO many, many years ago when I believe the poundage was 525 pounds. And I think Tom did 23 or 24, 25 reps. So I said, right, that's my new target. So weight-wise on my shoulders could be a lot less, but it's a hell of a challenge. And there are some elite lifters You can find videos of this on YouTube that have never, they've tried to do it and it pretty much fucked them up big time. So it's a big challenge, but it's not £900. It is a shift, an emphasis, a change. Equally, if I do it, it's going to be right up there. It's an elite lift for reps in terms of the way people have challenged and people that are £1,000 squatters can't do it, and so on and so forth. So it's a shift. It's a way of doing different things. For example, with some athletes, Steve, just to finish on that point, what you'll quite often see is they go from being a top pro, playing and competing in tournaments and championships and so on and so forth, to being a top pro teacher, like a golf pro, or someone that coaches and works with other elite athletes. They might specifically, for example, Stephen, we see this a couple of times, not always, but the most part is a straightforward coach. What you might see is someone who works specifically with a particular group on their mental aspect. The reasons why I became a professional was this. There was a lot of other people that had my talents, but very few had my mental attitude, and I can teach you that mental attitude. And therefore, they go back out into there. They might do motivational speaking, where, or even just dinner stuff, where they go and they get other athletes, amateur athletes, and they G them up and make them want to go to the gym and make them want to go and kick ass. And it's a way of shifting emphasis. It gives value to what you did before. It stops you fucking getting, as Steve said, depressed about the simple fact that the reality of that situation, including myself, including Steve, we will not be as strong as we was at certain periods of time. We will not be as much. That's just fucking life. You need to be able to handle it, and you can handle it by changing emphasis. I will not, if I make it to 8 years of age, have a 20 plus arm. I will not, if I make it to 8 years of age, be able to squat 900 pounds. I have to deal with that. So that's one way of dealing with that particular aspect, Steve. But most of our listeners are at the beginning, or perhaps a little way into the beginning of their journey. And for them, the emphasis today, Steve, is this is how, when you're having a bad day, when you think you're not doing as well as you think you might be, just because you're having that kind of day, we're going to give you some suggestions as how to measure your progress so that you can look back and see how far you've come. And what they should do, along with the steroidal advice that we're going to give and talk about the Para Pharma itself, is specifically give you encouragement to keep plugging away, to keep going when it's hard, to keep going when your head quite and your eyes can't quite see what you're doing, and realize that you've actually come incredibly well, that you're actually already in that 10%, or even better, see the 5%. Those of you that have made it to the stage are way ahead of the pack of the guys that just recreationally lift. And this is a way of encouraging you to see that you have done fantastically well and will continue to do well in the future. Back to you, Steve.
So let's move to the next topic, Mobster, and you I kind of segued into it a little bit, and so did you. And look, let's, we got to talk about specs to measure progress. Now, when it comes to progress, a lot of people they come on the forum and they'll, post, about a cycle or whatever, and or a client will come to me and Steve, help me set up a cycle. What's your advice? And I always want to know, where are you at? That's step one. Where are you at? Your height, your weight, your body fat. And really, height and weight aren't that important, but it kind of gives you an idea of the person's physique. But body fat's
Yes.
very, very important. Without body fat, there's a big difference between being, say, 5'10", 185 pounds, and being 7% body fat or being 18% body fat. And there's a big difference. Or being 5'6", 5'7", and being 200 pounds. You could be 5'6", 200 pounds and 25 or 30% body fat, or you're gonna be 5'6", 200 pounds and look like Samir Bannout and be like 5% body fat. You
Yeah.
see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's very, very important when it comes to your specs, all right, to know the difference. Body fat's important. And then and just obviously posting a picture and posing, for pictures would give everybody an idea of what you look like. So really, we need to know that if you're going to come on the forums. Age is also important. You're
Yeah.
going to get different advice when it comes to progress if you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
You're going to get different advice if you're in your 50s. It's just going to make.
Steve, the big difference, if you can see a physique where you say that person's going to transform their physique, versus someone that's already, for want of a better phrase, elite, where we will be able to help them perhaps make a small difference. Photograph right away will show us the genetic potential, and literally being able to say, as I just said, that this person's got these tiny little joints, they've got a little bit of muscle, and they're actually kind of lean. And if you and I work with them, or someone else works with them, puts 5 or 10 pounds of muscle on, they're going to transform. Now, if we've got someone that's competed a couple of times already, maybe come second in their class, and they've been lifting for 5, 10 years, then for us to throw 3 or 4 pounds of muscle on will not transform their physique. So it's going to be that much harder to make progression on that athlete. Equally, they'll know what they're doing. They know what it's taking them to get there. So they'll understand the methodology quite a lot better than the beginner. So again, as Steve says, photographs is a great example, and I'll touch upon that as well, Steve, in terms of measuring progression, because you can go back and look at photographs from 5 or 10 years ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago versus now. And hopefully, say, for example, if I put a bit more muscle on my shoulder, it's going to transform my physique. But equally, it gives us, for example, and I'll just touch on this, it's slightly amusing, Steve. Every so often, someone comes onto the forum and is convinced that they are going to be Mr. Olympian. And one I remember from our ex-master, Steve, was some little 140-pound Indian fella, bless him. And he said, if only people would help me with sponsorship, etc. And I thought, mate, all the sponsorship and support in the world will not transform your little skinny ass, bless him, 140 pounds. He's not going to become Mr. Olympia. The ones that are going to become Mr. Olympia kind of looked like miniature Mr. Olympias when they fucking started. And again, we'll see this in pictures. But pictures is a great way, and I will touch on this just briefly on photographs. Try to, when you do the pictures, and this is the easiest way for you to see differences, same light, same conditions, even the same clothing. If you find a spot in the house with a nice plain background, make that your place where you take pictures all the time under the same light bulb. Don't change the wattage. And if you can wear the same pants on top or whatever, Steve, that's a great way to do it. You know, it's even better if you get someone else to do it, because weird angles can make us look great. Top pros still do this. Don't fucking use filters in the same conditions every single time. And seriously, Steve and I, even if we get them to post a picture, we'll say, how long have you been training? So we get an idea then how far they've progressed to that point in time and how far we think we can progress them in the future. So those are things on the photographs. Back to you for a second, Steve.
Yeah, and we see this, on logs. People post. That's why we always tell you when you're putting a log on the forum, we want you to put before pictures. This way, right off the bat, and there's no reason to be shy about it. You're not gonna get flamed or anything like that. But the reason is we need to see, because 50 pages down the line, which is going to be a few months down the line, then you post pictures, as Mobster said, the same exact pictures, the same exact posing, then we can see your progress. It's like right there in black and white. We can see your progress. So pictures go a long way. So we've come a long way. Back in your day, Mobster, you couldn't do that because, and even in my day, we used to have these digital cameras and you have like a little USB cord. You plug the digital camera to your computer, then you upload the picture onto the computer. Then you'd have to, change the file from JPEG or whatever the hell it is. And then you have to get it on there like that. That was very hard.
Oh,
Now
man.
you just use an iPhone and you can literally just come on the forum and, bring up the post on your phone and just add the image, and it like
Yeah.
literally takes seconds. So we come on back in your day, you guys had like
Rolls
Polaroid.
of film, man. Rolls of film. You have to go to the chemist to be developed. Oh, my
Yeah.
God. And not all of the pictures will come out. Oh, come on. It was horrendously difficult compared to now. It's so much easier.
Yeah, I mean, so now we can really see progress. So you want to take advantage of that, and you want to basically post pictures, and as Mobster said, the same exact pictures, and make sure when you're posting your pictures, we can see your stomach, especially as men, because where do we
Mm.
store excess body fat? We store it in our
Yes.
bellies, and that's why
Yes.
you see like people who are extremely high body fat, they look like they're pregnant. They have big guts sticking out. So and if you're like, 15% body fat, 70% body fat, you got some loose fat around your stomach. So it's important to see that. This way we can be like, you know what, we need to kind of eradicate that body fat. So specs to measure progress, that's a very, very important way, especially as men, is get good pictures of your stomach be honest about it. Don't like suck in your stomach as much as you can. You want to be
Yeah.
relaxed, but you want to be, upright. And this way,
Mm.
when you get the pictures taken a few months from now, you do the exact same pose, and we can really give an honest
Yes.
assessment of how
Yes.
much you're progressing.
Let's talk about another means of method of progression, okay, guys? And again, right, so one would be the scale. And this is kind of obvious. It kind of ties in a little bit with the body fat, and I'll explain why. And again, even the photographs that Steve just mentioned, but the scale is in and of itself a measurement. So we'll touch upon that as it stands. And quite simply, if you're a young person that's aiming to add muscular body weight and all other things are equal, so your body fat percentage stays the same, then getting on the scale and seeing £1 or £2 or £5, etc., is a plus. It is a simple, straightforward measure. Again, visually, £1 or £2 will not make a great difference, but you're there looking down, and the scale says you've got £2 more muscle than you had before. Abs are still visible, the same skin qualities before. You can't see the difference looking in the mirror because I'll deal with that in a second. But it still says £2, and you haven't lost it. It's £2 this week. It's £2 more from last week, and so on and so forth. Now, the reason why you won't see a huge difference is on the average person, it takes roughly £10 to add an inch. So £2 would be one fifth of an inch, and one fifth of an inch all over you're not really going to see it visually. It's not going to be massively different in terms of a photograph or standing in front of the mirror, good day, bad day, whatever. It's only a fifth of an inch. But an inch, the £10, is visible. You're absolutely going to notice that with your shirt, even if you're wearing a pair of t-shirt and short sleeve, because it feels tighter in the collar, it feels tighter in the sleeves, it feels tighter in the chest, and so on and so forth. So the scale in and of itself is a measurement. Equally, if you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to get into shape, the scale will show you that as well. It's the reason why it's probably the number one. Why, for example, do we not see measurements as the number one measure in Weight Watchers or similar type organizations that are helping people with weight loss? And I love this weight loss, not fat loss, because you'll lose muscle at the same time. Scale is there, it's down in front, you do it in front of the group, etc. No one's getting a tape measure out and showing your 40-inch belly and or your 20-inch bingo wing covered arms or whatever the fuck it is. And they should really, because the thing with the scale again is that sometimes it can throw you off, which is why we talk about the other means as methods of progression as well. So, for example, if you and Steve and I were recomping, the scale can stay exactly the same. But because we're recomping, like losing fat and adding muscle at the same time, let's say that I weigh £200 and I was 20% body fat and I do recomposition, I could lose 4 or 5 pounds, maybe reduce my body fat to 18%, add 3 or 4 pounds of muscle, get on a scale, and still be £200, but I would look different. The fat under my chin might have disappeared, the bingo wings on my arms have gone. I'm starting to see the top row of my abs, and yet the scale is exactly the same. That's why we measure other things as well. But it is definitely a measurement. I 100%, and I've used this on other shows, Steve. I talked about earlier on, talking about training logs, as Steve did, and I know that I started to keep a number in my head. I started training 15, 16, and I kept a number in my head for what I weighed when I was 18 years of age. And I weighed 175 pounds, 12 and a half stone, about 80 something kilograms. And today, as an example, I weighed myself probably the first time in a week or so, and I was 325 pounds. So that is absolutely a measurable fucking difference between when I was 18, doesn't matter, that's not when I started before, and now. Absolutely. What's that, Steve? 150 fucking pounds difference off the top of my head. So absolutely, I weigh more than I did then. Therefore, a scale is a means of measurement. But I said, when it comes to the bodybuilding aspect, the visual is as important. Equally,
Yeah.
Steve, and I'll move on. Yeah, go on,
Yeah,
talk
let
on
me
that
just
before we
say,
move on to
when it
the
comes to scale,
consultation.
I'm not a big believer in the scale, but like if you're gonna do the whole scale thing, you got to do it. And I don't like the Weight Watchers scale idea of going to Weight Watchers. Oh, I'm going to the 11 a.m. meeting. I'm going to the 5 p.m. meeting. I'm going to 2
Yeah,
p.m.
there's
meeting.
ways of cheating, Steve. I'd miss any meal before you go, just so
Yeah, yeah.
shows the
So
plan, and immediately you get out and you eat and all
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind
Let
of
me
stuff.
let me just say this, buddy. Listen, you got to be consistent. Whether you're bulking
Yes.
or cutting, you got to be consistent when you get on the scale. So let's be honest with ourselves. The best way to do it is you wake up in the morning, you go to the bathroom,
Yes.
you get, you evacuate, and then you get on the scale before you eat your first meal.
In hydrating,
Just
anything. Yeah.
just to be consistent. It's not that we're trying to cheat or anything, but we want to be consistent when every day. This way, that will guide your progress. So if you get your weight done, before you eat or after you eat or before you go to the bathroom or after your bathroom, it's going to be off 1, 2, 3, 4 pounds.
Yeah.
Throughout the day, your body weight is going to fluctuate. So we every day we got to be consistent if
Yes.
you're going by the scale. And at the end of the day, look, if you're trying to bulk, you want the scale to go up over time. If you
Yep.
want to cut, but it's not going to be in a linear fashion. So that's the frustrating thing because you might get on the scale and you might weigh a
Yeah.
half
On
pound
that
more.
particular one, Steve, and I just want to jump back in for a second. On this particular one, this is where it can be a bit of a head fuck. So the measure and progression part really plays a part here. And I would argue, for example, I would probably try to keep people down to about once a week. And I do, if you were doing an 8 week or a 12 week training cycle, steroid cycle, dieting, getting ready for the holiday, whatever else, it is a massive head fuck if you get on the scale and it hasn't moved and you're grinding, you're grinding, you're grinding. And the problem with that sometimes is people, honestly, I probably guilty of this as a teenager, Steve, getting on a scale 3 times or 4 times a fucking day. Motherfucker, you're not going to go fucking 14 pounds in a day. You're not going to turn into fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger or Phil Heath or whoever in a day. So what the fuck are you doing getting on the scale every 5 minutes? It's stupid. Whereas on a weekly basis, every week, 8 weeks, maybe at the gym, maybe on one of those body fat measuring type scales, again, under the same conditions, same box of briefs, same socks, whatever, once a week makes more sense. Arguably, that maybe where the Weight Watchers thing does work in terms of it's not every fucking day because it really can mess with your head. I can lose 4 pounds, Steve, traveling because I'm just having snacks or sandwiches or stuff, not having my regular food that I would normally eat. But I can gain that back in 2, 3 days just by carving up, having more pasta and shit. So it's a head fact. It is a measurement, but it's not one you should overly rely on. And certainly don't make it too goddamn frequent. uh, Absolutely, it's kind of silly, really, because as I said, literally you could change diet, it could be a holiday. We've had people have birthdays recently on the forum, and they're going to have cake. They're going to have some fucking pancakes. They're going to indulge for a day or two, and I guarantee that the scale changes on those days. It's what it weighs on a regular basis and over time. So again, my number that I gave you, Owen, was over 45 fucking years. Absolutely seen progression over 45 years. I would probably for most users, Steve, once a fortnight or once a month, because then I'm measuring progress through the year. And it's much easier to see the progression, whether it's loss of body fat or gains in muscle, much easier. Every day can be a head fat. And more than that, and I have seen people do this, and I've done it myself, Steve, more frequently than every day is a bit silly. But I would actually, I don't know if you agree with this, but once a week, again, same conditions as a photograph, make sure that you are dressed more or less the same. For example, Steve, all my gym stuff, I've nearly always got a t-shirt and perhaps a hoodie, light or heavy on. So I try to make sure that when I go to the gym, same trainers, same tracky bottom, same shorts, whatever, t-shirt and some sort of top on. So it's the same as before. There's more or less the same condition. If I go and have a really heavy coat on and I get on the scales, absolutely I'm going to see difference. But that's not the same as measuring proper progress. What do you think on that before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I think we covered it. And then look, when it comes to that, so I mean, we're talking photos, we're talking about going by the scale, and also looking at yourself every day in the mirror. Again, after you go to, you evacuate in the morning and everything. A lot of people they'll notice who are trying to cut, they'll notice as the day goes on, they'll start getting, their stomach kind of starts protruding. And this isn't something to ignore either. And that's probably being caused from, you probably have bowel issues where you're getting constipated, or you might have a situation where you have some type of food
Yes,
allergy
yes,
or intolerance. So
yes,
if that's happening too, like throughout the day, if you're going like you're waking up in the morning, you have a flat stomach, and then as the day goes on, you're getting bloated and you look like you're pregnant by the end of the day, you really need to take a look at what you're eating and be able
yes.
to fix that. because without fixing what you're putting into your body, you're not going to solve the issue. Maybe you have a gluten intolerance. Maybe you have a dairy intolerance. Maybe you have an issue with your bowels where you're not having regular bowel movements. Maybe you're not getting enough fiber. There's different things that could be going on there. Maybe you need to start doing some time restricted eating and fasting because you're grazing too much during the day. You're eating too early in the day, and then you're eating throughout the day. You're not giving your digestive system a chance to catch up because you keep throwing food at your body. So even if you're following the whole I got to eat every 2 or 3 hours thing, you still have to do some fasting. Like every couple of weeks, do a 24-hour fast. It doesn't matter because you got to give your digestive system a break and give it a chance to catch up. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with digestive problems, and then that's really going to throw a wrench into whatever your goals happen to be. So I
Yeah,
don't care if you do the whole 400-gram protein. I'm a bodybuilder. I'm going to eat
yeah,
every
yeah,
two
yeah,
hour.
yeah,
I'm going to wake up 5 o'clock and eat a big breakfast. I don't
yeah.
care if you're doing that. You still have to do some fasting. Otherwise, your gut's going to get fucked up, and that's going to be a problem. So you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and
Be
determine,
honest. Be honest. Yeah,
yeah, what's going on and go to correct that. Maybe you look in the mirror and you say, you know what? I'm seeing an imbalance. Maybe one arm is bigger than the other, or one
yeah,
pec is bigger than the other pec, or it could be anything going on. You got to be honest with yourself. Look at your legs. Wow, my calves aren't growing the way my quads and hamstrings are, or my legs aren't growing the way my upper body is, or my upper body isn't growing the way my lower body is. You have to identify weaknesses and try to work on them. That's how you're going to be able to measure progress as you go along. So, yeah.
yeah. Let me expand on that, and I've got a couple of more thoughts. One more is measurement, and I'll deal on the visual thing again that Steve just referred to in a way, and it actually goes back to the photograph thing. And I've made this suggestion in the past because we can't always see changes in ourselves visually. One of the tricks that I've told people to do is go and see nanny, go and see your grandma. If you haven't seen grandma or an auntie or pal for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you've been on a body transformation gig, you've been trying to get a bigger chest, bigger arms, smaller waist, look leaner, etc., go and see your nan. And it can be anybody, but nan is just an example because nan will go, "Oh, look at you. You've changed." And you can't see it, but someone who hasn't seen you for 6, 7, 8 weeks can see it. They literally think you go, maybe even wearing the same clothes as you wore the last time you went to visit Steve, and they will see that thing. And hopefully you go, do you think I look different, Nan? Well, your chest looks bigger, whatever. Something that could be a pal, could be your aunt, it could be whatever, right? But the trick here is because they haven't seen you for a number of weeks. I've done this, and I told this on another podcast. Steve went away for 2 weeks, trained and ate loads more food, came back, and I was different. Literally, the people in the office where I was working, they could see the difference in 2 fucking weeks. Never mind 6, 7, 8 weeks. The one that I will talk about briefly before we talk about target setting, Steve, and then on to Para Pharma products, is measurements. And measurement, I'll tell you an interesting, this comes from some of the older historical books that I still own. So they were able to kind of work out the potential that you might have from your bone measurements. And if, for example, certain measurements will never change on your physique, never, or if they do change, it's really, really slow change. And these are things like your ankle, your knee, your hips. That's again making sure you haven't got a fat ass, but around the bony parts, basically, around your elbow, around your wrist. And to a smaller degree, I would argue perhaps a little bit around the neck and a little bit around even the shoulder joint. Basically, where the bone is close to the surface. Even on the biggest, most obese fat motherfuckers you can think of, the wrist shouldn't be covered with layers of fat. They would physically be unable to move their hand. Same thing around their knee. They might have big knees because they weigh 1,000 fucking pounds, but that's because they weigh 1,000 pounds and that knee needs to support 1,000 pounds. But the actual bone, measured around the tendons, around the bone itself, should remain the same. So it was a way of measuring how the potential. If it was a big bone, they're going to be endomorphic. If it's a small bone, they're ectomorphic, and so on. And we touched upon that on another show. So what you're basically doing here is you have for example, let's use the wrist, the elbow, and the forearm muscles. If my wrist is around, I believe, 8 1/4, I'm not sure what I am around the elbow. I think I've had to measure it before for elbow sleeves, weightlifting. And I think it was something like 17 inches around the elbow. I've had my forearms up to 17 inches. They're probably 16 and a half inches as I do this show. But that means it's an 8.25 inch difference between my wrist measurement and my forearm measurement. And again, might be a quarter of an inch here, might be a half an inch there, perfectly. It might even be a fifth of an inch, like I said earlier on. But that's the difference. The bone size on that person's wrist should stay the same, and the measurement on the muscular part should grow. So, for example, if I get fatter, you might see a little bit of soft tissue around my wrist. If I get stronger over 10 or 15 years, you might see a little bit of thickening on the wrist where the tendons and the connective tissue and a little bit of the bones got thicker. But for the most part, that's very, very slow. But the muscular part will be bigger. And we know, listen, right, there's not a bodybuilder, never mind the weightlifters and strongmen, we can be as guilty of that as a bodybuilder. There's almost no bodybuilders alive that hasn't seen a truly large muscular arm or other body part. And then you see the numbers and you go, oh my God, Ronnie Coleman had 23-inch arms. Oh, Lou Ferrigno had a 16-inch chest. Da, 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 da. We've all looked at those numbers and been blown away. We compare them to ourselves. But the reality, again, in terms of progression, for the average Joe, for the person that goes to the gym, would be if you can make the muscular, i.e., chest, back, bicep, tricep, etc., bigger, while keeping other measurements, for example, your waist, the same, then you haven't put on fat, you've put on muscle. You've kept your waist the same, which means it stayed tight, it stayed muscular, it stayed ripped, and my arms have got a quarter of an inch bigger. Now, if your arms were a quarter of an inch bigger, but your waist was a quarter of an inch bigger, I'd argue that you put on fat and maybe some muscle. So these are the things to do. Right, I want to talk about target setting, Steve, before we talk about cycles and Para Pharma itself. So sometimes, again, and this is I'll touch upon what I said at the beginning of the show, it can be difficult to see the progression. So I, as a weightlifter, strength athlete, call it what you will, I will set specific targets. I talked about doing the 900 pounds. I talk about wanting to do the 525 pounds for as many reps as possible. That's target setting. That's giving me a number to aim for, giving me something that I want to do, and that's a specific thing. Now, what you occasionally see, and we see this more outside of the group that we talk to, and probably not that common amongst our listeners, but sometimes someone will say, I want to get into shape. And we're like, what do you mean? You need sometimes to be specific. So someone saying, I want to lose weight. Well, what, you want to lose muscle and fat? No, I mean fat. Well, then you should say fat. If I want to add muscle, I should say muscle added. If I want to make my arm bigger, I can make my arm bigger by getting fatter. So I mean muscle. So it might be that I want to add a quarter of an inch. I want to do this. I want to do that. Talk about that, Steve, specifically, because sometimes people can be generalized and we need to be a bit more specific in our target setting.
Yeah, and you got to be realistic. You got to be realistic at what you're trying to accomplish. And you mentioned it earlier about the Mr. Olympia example. And look, it's great to have goals and great to have dreams, but we have to be realistic. I actually believe in the laws of attraction. It's a real thing. And we've used the laws of attraction throughout human history, the different beliefs that we've had, whether it be we're about to go into a battle and we give our, we're going to that battle on a positive mindset and we're able to dominate. Alexander the Great, he took a small army and he went across and he basically took over so much territory, even with that small army, because of his belief that he would win. So it's the same thing. You've got to have that belief that you're going to improve when it comes to setting goals, and they're important to do, but they have to be realistic. You can't go into it saying, "Yeah, I'm going to be a Mr. Olympia champion." No, why don't you start with, "I want to, go to a regional, and I want to place in
Yeah,
the top three in a regional." Start there,
yes,
and
yes.
then you go accomplish it. And then from there, you say, you know what? I want to win my class at the regional, and then I want to win the whole competition at the regional. And then you move up. You move up that way. You don't, because it's not realistic to say, yeah, I want to be Mr. Olympia champion. You're not going to magically just show up at Mr. Olympia. You have to actually qualify to even get to
Yeah,
go to Mr. Olympia in the first place. So that doesn't, that, see, it's not a realistic goal to say, yeah, well, a year from now, I want to be a Mr. Olympia champion. No, you've got to say, a year from now, I want to make top three in my class in a regional, and you work your way up that way. So that's
yes,
important to definitely set goals. I completely believe in that. And whatever it happens to be, close your eyes and just imagine. Do you want a six pack? Do you want a four pack? Hell, do you want a two pack? If you've got like a big stomach and you're 30% body fat, set a goal. Yeah, I want to be able to see a two pack in my stomach. I want to
Yes.
have a flat stomach. I want to go from wearing these 42-inch jeans to being able to fit in 32-inch jeans. That's something that you can accomplish, and set. I want you to not set when it comes to cycling steroids. We're going to talk about cycling steroids. It's important for me to mention this when it comes to setting goals. When it comes to once you start your steroid journey, or if you're on your steroid journey, don't set a goal and say, yeah, after this 10 or 12-week cycle, I want to be able to bench this, or I want to look like this, or whatever. Set year over year goals. Set 5-year goals. Set 10-year goals. Go long term, because what happens is people set 12-week goals when it comes to they want to go from looking like the average Joe to looking like a top 1% lifter at their gym. And it's just not realistic on a 12-week cycle. I've seen some amazing transformations, but for the most part, it's not realistic. So you have to be realistic with your goals and understand this is a marathon and not a sprint. Nobody just goes and runs one cycle and gets the body they want. You're not going to think that. You're going to be thinking at the end of your first cycle, I'm ready for I want to jump in my second cycle. And after your second cycle, you're going to be
Yes.
thinking, I want to go on my
Yes.
third. So this is a lifelong progression when it comes to when we're using anabolic steroids. So don't say, yeah, I want to look this way after 12 weeks. A lot of these, transformations are, online. We've seen some amazing transformations, but realistically, nobody ever did a 12-week cycle. Like, okay, I'm done. I'm good. I'm happy with the way I look. You're gonna you're gonna want to
No.
keep going after that. So you have to set more long-term goals for what you're looking for.
Yeah, Steve, even when I was at my absolute best competitively, I would only aim for a 5% increase on the previous year if we were doing the same lifts. So you need to have, as Steve says, realistic goals. And over time, each one of those will add up to fantastic progression. But it also means you can see 5%, 5%, 5% every time. And that's going to encourage you to carry on pushing forward. Let's talk about, and let me just give you an example, Steve. I'm looking at the Para Pharma product page here. And when I was strength training, one of the products, and I've talked about this before, or for my most competitive time, and again, I mentioned just now the 5%, was Anavar. They've got an Anavar 10 and an Anavar 50. Now, 50 milligrams a day, I was probably doing other things, but one of my cycles would have been just Anavar, Steve, 8 weeks. I trained for 8 weeks, starting prep for the competition, and the latter 8 weeks would have been including the Anavar, 50 milligrams a day for the last 8 weeks, as I just said, with the point being that last year's 100 kilos or 220 pounds is this year's 105 kilos or 231 pounds. And so long as that was competitive, I was kicking ass. So talk about an oral that you, Steve, from the Para Pharma line that you would see progression with. I think both of us would like Dynabol. So talk about Dynabol, for example.
Yeah, if you're looking to get stronger and bigger, really move the scale quickly, Dynabol is the cheat code. So if you want to bulk, because it's going to make you hungry and you're going to be eating like a madman. So what Mobster said earlier, where he said, well, you can't gain, a pound a day, blah, blah, blah. With Debo, I've gained like a lot,
I
in a
have
very
a
short.
pound a day. I've gained a pound a day on Debo.
Yeah.
You're right, Steve.
So, I mean, this is why we use anabolic steroids. This is why we use Para Pharma anabolic steroids to give us an edge and help us reach our goal. So, if you are a skinny guy and you really feel like, you can use a boost right now, you've put in the work, you put in the hours in the gym, you've increased, the amount of nutritious food you're eating, you've cleaned up your diet, and now you really want to push yourself.
Yeah,
Dianabol is the most dummy proof oral steroid out there. And you only have to run it 4 or 5 weeks. And you could run it anywhere from 20 to 30 milligrams a day by itself. And you'll notice some incredible gains from it, both with strength and size. And you'll be adding weight very, very quickly. You want to keep in mind, though, a lot of that is water retention, so that's something to keep in mind. You may want to use may want to keep an AI on hand. Luckily,
yeah,
Parapharma also has AIs to use. So
yes, yeah,
yeah, Anavar is a great one. You mentioned it for cutting. If you just want to get low on something in recomp or you want to cut, then Anavar would be a good option. So they're kind of like opposites in that respect.
I'll talk about an injectable from Para Pharma, and I've had particular specific experience with this particular product. I mentioned this on other shows, and I was challenged via the forum, by a sponsor on the forum. We'd like to see you do a cut mobster. We'd like to see you get into shape. You're doing all these crazy heavy fucking weights. You don't care about how big you are, etc., etc. Let's see you get into shape. So it was suggested, and I used Cut Stack 150, which is testosterone propionate, tren acetate, and drostanolone propionate. A very popular blend in terms of those particular ratios. And just I've told this story before, I'll tell it again, Steve. I went from 327 and a half down to 320, dropped 2 notches on my belt. I had to adjust it, and that's still, even to this day, not gone back up. And went back up to 327 pound, but kept 27 and a half pound, but kept that smaller waist. And again, that was just a 4 week Para Pharma Cut Stack 150 cycle, Steve. Just as a very straightforward transformation. I upped my cardio. I ate no crap for 4 weeks. I moaned like a bitch at the end of the day as we got towards the end, but I still saw those results. And that was really, really straightforward, Steve. Nothing complicated, singular product. And I believe I was dosing this 3 times a week for 4 weeks. What would you use from the injectable range, Steve, if you wanted to add muscle? And then we'll talk about cutting again for the next one.
Yeah, and DECA and NPP. So NPP is nandrolone phenylpropionate, and the DECA is the long-acting nandrolone decanate. And so they're both nandrolone, but they just have different esters. And Parapharma has you covered either way. But the good thing about the nandrolones is that when you take it, it doesn't give you the androgenic side effects of other steroids. But what it does is it gives you a lot of the benefits of testosterone without the androgenic side effects, but also without the estrogenic side effects. Okay, so it aromatizes a fifth less than straight testosterone. So you're going to get really good results on nandrolones because it's going to boost your mood for most people. Like over 90% say it boosts their mood. Over 90% says it boosts your appetite. So you want to basically do what Mobster just said, nutritious food, muscle building food. Okay. You don't want to be eating Pop-Tarts and pizza and beer. You want to be eating good quality foods. I mean, we're talking about good grass-fed beef, good quality chicken, your veggies, your good quality carbs like sweet potatoes, brown rice. These are the muscle building foods. These are the backbone of muscle building. And you'll be able to really have a very enjoyable bulk. So the way I would run the nandrolones is either you go with the MPP, which is a shorter acting ester, which would be an 8 or 10 week cycle, or you do go ahead and do the DECA, which is a long acting ester. And that one you want to push 12 weeks or 13 weeks or maybe 14 weeks max. I don't want you to run cycles that are too long because then recovery would be harder. But the way I recommend running the nandrolones is you want to use it where it's running the cycle. So in this case, 300 or 400 milligrams a week is perfectly fine. You can run a low dose testosterone with it, 100 milligrams. You don't want the testosterone to interfere with the cycle. And then I would run the Parapharma Proviron with it. And Proviron is a great addition to any cycle, but especially in this one because the Proviron is going to provide that balance of the DHN and DHT. Because you're going to remember with nandrolones, they do metabolize the DHN, which is dihydronandrolone in the body. So that can lead to decadic, both on cycle and when you come off, because you have that imbalance. But if you run that Proviron 25 to 50 milligrams a day with the nandrolone, I can assure you that will reduce the chances of having any types of problems like that, and it will enhance your cycle. So Proviron is a great addition. Any of these cycles we're talking about, Mobster.
Yeah, one more, Steve. And I'm just thinking about this as another one for getting into shape, so getting leaner and at the same time retaining muscle tissue. So, for example, Parapharma does a Primo 200, that's 200 milligrams per milliliter. And we've talked about our old school bodybuilders would use Primo to keep muscle that they'd spent most of the year building up, keep the muscle, and at the same time get into shape, i.e., lose the fat. but they didn't have the advantage of the other PEDs and the rest of the anabolics in terms of choice that we have now. So, for example, Steve, and Para Pharma also does a Testo E400 or so, Testo enanthate. And I'm thinking here, Steve, real simple would be Testo E400, 1 mil a week, and Primo 200, 1 mil a week. Or if you wanted to go a little bit more hardcore, which would take you up to 1.2 or 1,200 milligrams a week, just doubling up. And I would probably run both of these on a half mil. You can even put them in the same syringe twice a week, Steve. Keep it really, really straightforward. And again, that would be 600 milligrams total, or as I said, doubling up from one half a mil to 1 mil twice a week. Again, will take you to 1,200 milligrams total. What are you looking at here? The Primo is helping you to keep your muscle on, and arguably you might even add a little bit of muscle tissue with the Testo E400. You could, for example, split that out and use something like Winstrol as a little bit more of a dryer. And again, at the same time, you probably be a tighter diet, more cardio, but you're maintaining that hard-earned muscle. So what should happen is that the lean muscle tissue that's underneath that body fat should stay 95% of it. You haven't lost hardly anything at all, and you stripping away the body fat. Terms of time on cycle here, Steve. I mean, obviously, I would say most people are looking at 12 to 16 weeks, but I'm like Steve here. My preference would be for lower dosages, hence my suggestion of 600 milligrams total and shorter periods of time. So I'm going to say 8 to 12 weeks. 8 weeks is probably optimal. If you've got a little bit more time to get in shape, say for a holiday or a modeling gig or something like that, you can take it out to 12 weeks. And arguably, again, Steve, I would prefer the lower dosages if it's a longer cycle versus perhaps, again, if it's a time limitation issue, slightly higher dosages. You could even run at 900 milligrams total here, Steve, but for shorter periods of time, just for the impact on the body. And again, because it's going to be that much harder to get into shape if you don't have much time. Any more on that, Steve, or do we want to talk about Para Pharma itself?
Yeah, so one more we have to include, and that's trenbolone. And
Yeah,
trenbolone is the number one steroid if you want to make crazy progression. I don't care if it's you want to cut and completely change your physique, if you want to bulk and completely change your physique, if you want to recomp and completely change your physique. This is why tren is used in competitions and bodybuilding competitions. This is why tren is used in your neck of the woods, Mobster, with powerlifting competitions. And it's an amazing steroid.
yeah,
Really the only thing really you want to avoid tren if you're looking to progress when it comes to endurance. Don't use tren if you want to progress with endurance. But when it comes to all this other bodybuilding related stuff, it will transform your physique. We've seen some amazing physique transformations on tren. So trenbolone, look, wait till you gain experience with other steroids. Wait till you really hit a true plateau, whether it be in your strength or in your bodybuilding
yes,
endeavors
yes.
before
Don't
you go
go
to
hard
tren.
straight away, guys. Work your way up to it.
And Para
They've got,
Pharma
yeah,
has many different tren options. They have
yes,
different
yes,
esters, they have blends, but the way to run tren, I really like anywhere from 200 to 400 milligrams a week. You can use
yeah,
it solo if it's your first time using it, or you can use it if you have more experience. You can use it stacked with some of the other steroids that we've talked about. So I recommend when it comes to tren, you either use it solo or you stack it with a mild option. Because if you stack it with something else that's very harsh, the side effects become very brutal. And then
yeah.
also you want to be flexible with tren. It might not be a good idea to use tren um, for a long period of time. So you might get to
No,
week
no,
6, week 7, and be like, you know what, my body really feels bad. I have a lot of
yeah,
fatigue. Maybe it's
yeah,
time for me to come off. So be flexible with tren. Don't say, yeah, I'm going to run it 10 weeks, hell or high water. No, you've got to be flexible and say, you know what, enough is enough because the side effects will get brutal. So let's talk about Para Pharma popularity, Mobster. I'll start. We don't have much time, but
yeah,
let me just say this. They've been around for over 12 years. And the reason they have been around for over 12 years is because their customers love their products. You're going to be able to get amazing gains on all these steroids that we've talked about. You're going to be able to make amazing progress with all these Para Pharma products we've talked about, just depending on what your goals are. And look, at the end of the day, they have excellent shipping options. They have great customer service. They have great payment methods. That's important too. We got to mention that more when it comes to payment because back in the old days, it wasn't so easy to pay a source. You'd have to send money
yes.
through Yes
Money
Western you
orders.
to some
Yeah,
dude into some
yeah.
other country and hope
Cash in an envelope.
Hope he
Oh my
didn't
God,
just
Steve.
steal your money in the process. So Para Pharma make it easy. You can go check out the ways they have. But look, if you order, we see so many reviews on Para Pharma, all positive because they are amazing. So they are a great source. So check them out for sure next time. Mobster, we have a minute left. Why don't you finish up with your thoughts on Para Pharma?
Guys, if you've got other means and methods of progression, ways of rewarding yourself, ways of seeing how you get on when it's been tough and hard, let us know in the comments below. Come onto the forums and talk about progression with us. Post up those pictures like we talked about earlier so that we can see where you started from and where you are now. Big you up if you need a lift for a day or two. Come on, let us know what you think about means and methods of progression on and off cycle, naturally or assisted. We want to know what your thoughts are on the subject, how you've measured progression in your particular way. It might be different from bodybuilding, it might be something else, Steve. If you got faster serving a ball, if you got quicker running the track, you let us know what ways you've measured progression because we want to know what your thoughts are. Please note, we are not doctors and opinions. Ours is our view and based on our experience and views on the topic. A podcast are for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.